John Gosier here, founder and CEO of Film Hedge. We are a tech platform that really solves problems around the way institutional capital allocates money to film and TV productions. And then we've also expanded that tent to include a broader array of investors, high net worth individuals, accredited investors, etc. We lend on their behalf and we service those deals. I would say one of the interesting trends that we see from where we sit in the market is the interest in financial sources and participants that haven't traditionally been involved in production at all. I think the tent is growing in terms of capital looking for places to go, and I mean, maybe that's something Mark can speak to, but certainly at Film Hedge, we're trying to figure out ways of welcoming more of those people who have curiosity or interest in how they can participate in media production. And I think what we're starting to see is distributors also start to get creative in how they can expand their business, looking at new ways of supporting productions that they're involved in. Traditionally, it was, issue, order for the film and MG for the film, and that was it. And they would just wait for the film to get funded and then distribute it. Some of them are now starting to look at advancing to the productions themselves to entice other investors to come in, which is solving their own problems. Like, how do we ensure this production actually makes it to the finish line in order to get it out to audiences? And so, as a lender, that helps us. It's a great signal to see the distributor have some skin in the game, whereas traditionally they kind of had, they have a lot of risk on the audience side, but they didn't have a lot of risk on the investment side. So it's a big shift in that dynamic.
How else can successful franchises be built? Is there a crossing of IP? Can we go from video games into film content and create more opportunities there, and create successful opportunities? Because that might not be the most successful example, but to throw it out to the group to sort of start off on, where do we go here on originals? Can we pick up the pace? Will there be more?
The audiences are, by far and large, kind of sick of the rinse and repeat stuff that's been coming from the studios the last few years, and I think they're beginning to get that sense. And if you look at what a lot of the studios are greenlighting now, there's more original stuff. And if you look at like films like Barbie, smaller films like Terrifier 3, the audience is there. People want to go to the movies, but they want to see stuff that they like and they're excited about.
So I think absolutely. I think the audiences are starving for more originality, more geographic, distributed ideas and creators. I think the example, you mentioned the movie Sinners, we wrote a little piece about that for Variety, where we talked about how the capital plays a role in giving creators who have original stories a little bit more leverage to get those stories out there. Because, from the studio's perspective, they want to do what works. They're not taking a whole lot of risk making, Fast and Furious 15. But when they're trying something new, they're taking on a lot of risk. The way capital plays a role in that is we lower the risk for the producer, for the studio, because now it's new capital at the table that we have different concerns than they do, but that allows them to keep more of their capital to make more original content, if that's what they choose to do.
Over the past years, we've seen an amalgamation of independent production companies and streamers demanding the right to own IP, or at least if they're not owning the IP, they're doing long-dated licensing agreements. Has that had an effect on opportunities in the financing space? Are they, in other words, doing all the production and you're not going to own your own rights? Is that the way the future is going to be? Or can everybody still get financing, still get a piece of their own IP, still maintain a piece of their own IP? What are the thoughts there?
The beauty of debt, as it works in the film and TV space, is it allows the producers to keep all of the IP. We're not buying pieces of the future of their original concepts or their franchises. We're almost like a tool that just gets them to the finish line. and allows them to retain more of that ownership as opposed to working with pure equity, or if you have a studio relationship where it's all about owning that IP. And so I think that, debt as a tool is something that more producers should just be aware of. So for Film Hedge, we are a lender. So what that means is we provide loans to film and TV producers. The good thing about the way what's essentially called private credit works in the film space is that it's not based on the credit of the producer or production company. It's based on deals that they're able to strike in the industry. So filing for your state tax credits, getting pre-sales in place, getting a distributor interested in the project. These are all things that we can then use to secure against for our lending. And so, that's part of the industry that I think, especially new producers, aren't aware of. They tend to think, I want to make a movie, it's going to cost $3 million. I need to go find somebody to give me $3 million as equity. But the reality is you can sort of stitch deals together by striking deals in the industry with sales agents, with distributors, with tax credit agencies, etc. And then that can be your collateral to get money from a group like us. So one of the things you asked earlier is what do we look for as financiers to qualify deals? For us, it's just the finance plan of the film. Of course, we care about scripts and we care about cast and all of that, but the number one thing that we need is a quality finance plan, and then that allows us to move forward, putting money into a deal. Well, we do think in terms of single pictures because we're underwriting against the assets of individual films, but what it opens up for is for private equity groups to look at a group like us, and there's others, we're not the only lender in the world, but to look at media assets as just an asset class, like a pool of assets that they can distribute, which is effectively a slate, but not a slate from the same production company or the same producer. And so they are effectively spreading their risk by working with managers like us, but then we do the work of like, how do we make sure that each of these deals is qualified and sufficiently collateralized and so on. But the other thing that we think a lot about is how do we get more of the, there's a lot of interest right now in structured credit, private credit for any asset class, and how do we get more of those investors interested in media specifically? And so we've done a lot of work there. We launched a new platform last week called Screen Points, which allows not institutions and not sort of fans, but the people in between, accredited investors, who don't have enough money to kind of participate in the big deals, but they're too big for the small deals. And so they kind of sit in this nice little mid-market that we are trying to open up. Republic's already done this for angel investors in tech and other sorts of investment opportunities. And we're looking forward to working with lots of people to expand that section of the market. How do we get to those investors specifically?